Hello and welcome to my video. This is a new style of video I'll be doing and I'm pretty excited for it. Final Fantasy XII is my favorite Final Fantasy and this is a self-imposed challenge I've been wanting to do for a while. Balthier and Fran versus the world. With only 2 characters to use, I'll have access to 4 jobs, which limits my access to a lot of spells and techniques, which should make the game more difficult. On top of that, I'm making Fran my dedicated summoner. 1, because I never really use summons in this game, or in any Final Fantasy for that matter, and 2, to match my Viera in Final Fantasy XIV. This will limit my access to bonus licenses on Balthier's jobs, which is more of an inconvenience than a difficulty increase. I will also be choosing jobs which specifically have no access to Wither, Expose, Shear, and Addle, so as to increase the difficulty on many of the endgame bosses, as those techniques can completely neuter any monster or boss in the game. So without further ado, let's get started. I obviously can't start the game with Balthier and Fran, and at one point in the game we lose them from our party completely. Luckily though, after obtaining Fran and Balthier, to the best of my knowledge, you never have to fight without them. For the sake of time, I'm just going to speed through the earliest parts of the game with Vaughn, and only going out of my way to acquire the blind black magic as I'm going to be using it on a few hunts. I actually managed to find a rare game monster, so I went out of my way to kill it with Vaughn. Please don't hate me. Once I have Fran and Balthier, I'm just going to remove Vaughn from the party and pretend he dies in the sewers. Just kidding, I can't remove him from the party yet. So I set his gambits to attack himself, and he'll simply remove himself from the party every time he comes back. I do the same for Amalia, and I go on as if there are no other party members. For the flans, I have Fran's gambit set for healing at 50% and using fire as her primary attack. I try to keep Fran topped up with potions so she doesn't use up all her MP on healing herself, and it be an easy fight. Getting through the sewers past this point is mostly just a slog without the additional damage from the other 2, but I make it through with only 1 setback. Fran dying because I didn't notice her HP was low and she had no MP. I saved before the next boss fight and let my imaginary friends kill themselves before going in. This fight ended up being way longer than I anticipated. I forgot to buy any additional magics from the shop before going into the palace, so I only have basic attacks as I didn't trust to use fire on a horse made of fire. I'm so used to this fight being a pushover that I didn't even realize how slow both Fran and Balthier are at this point in the game with their base weapons. I went through so many potions and even accidentally resurrected Vaughn instead of Fran at one point, but he immediately died and it wasn't a problem. I eventually killed the damn thing with after a long and brutal fight, and I certainly hope this doesn't become the norm going forward.
Die.
You okay?
I didn't mean me. I meant the boss. Don't mind me.
After getting caught, we end up in Nalbina prison. I run around gathering as many knots of rust as I can and totally forget to save before going to fight the 3 piglets. This is a fight which is again normally super easy and forgettable, so I didn't even realize that having Vaughn kill himself at the beginning of the fight would make it actually difficult. I ended up dying my first try because first aid is completely random and you start with no potions. On my second try, I managed to kill both Galito and Gwitch before needing to heal any, and with a few lucky first aids and a very lucky high damage hit with Knot of Rust, I was able to finish off Galito. What an unnecessary struggle. After I finish this, I can finally move on out of my party, so I no longer need him to kill himself to remove him from the equation. Vaughn, what would I do without the Vaughn? He's so funny. He's a good guy. His name is Vaughn. Yes. The path forward was pretty easy, but still slower than normal. I got little to no luck with the items, so no new gear for me yet. Once I get Bosch, I just set his gambits to self-kill to remove him from the party and carry on as normal. I pick up a chest with 2500 gil and move towards the shop. I pick up a new set of armor and weapons for my characters, and I set my licenses for Black Mage on Fran and Red Mage on Balthier. I want as many debuffs as I can get this early, and both of these classes will give me what I need. Once I have a new weapon on Balthier, his damage output rises significantly just because of how slow the guns actually are. This dungeon is a little bit faster than before, and I finally unlocked the staff license on Fran, giving me more magic damage. Most of this dungeon at this point is just a walkthrough, except for the battery mimics who have a 1% chance to drop a high-level magic armor piece. I get incredibly lucky and it drops for me, though I won't be able to use it for a while. I fight my way through to the boss and change up some of my gambits. With Balthier using slow on the Mimic Queen and following up with Dark Spam, I can hit all nearby targets taking out the smaller mimics. I leave Fran on blind and fire duty to chip away on the Mimic Queen. He ends up using an attack I have never seen before, but misses completely thanks to blind. Other than taking longer than average, this fight was just as easy as it normally is.
No, I leveled up.
I take my time through the Ester Sand as there's a few things to do. I quickly grab the poison magic and search the area for items. There's a rare game called Nekba in this area, so I search it out but don't find him. I move north towards the village to unlock the Ester Sand teleport crystal, and then I head back south. I make sure to search the areas I go through thoroughly for items. There's not a lot of good items at this point, but every potion or phoenix down helps. My second time through this area, and I find Neckbat. It's a decent fight, and I make sure to steal a rainbow egg, as it's worth 10 high potions. I continue south to the next area and jaunt on over to pick up the silence magic. From there I head through the closest zone to grab the Nalbanor teleport crystal. I continue south through the outpost, picking up items and gil as I go. I make it back to Rabanastre, and for the only time in the game, I lose access to Fran and Balthier. Luckily, no fighting is required, so I run around Rabanastre doing odds and ends. I make my way through the story far enough to get Fran and Balthier back, and we're off to the races. First thing I do is hunt down Thextra. This fight is meant for much earlier in the game, so it goes down super fast. It's not even worth mentioning. I head back to the Sandsea to pick up my next 2 hunts. I head towards Wraith as it's the closest, and after engaging in the fight I realized I didn't sell my rainbow egg and pick up the 10 high potions. This is normally a super easy fight, just throwing high potions at him, but I have to go the slow road and spam cure, and doing my best to heal with potions. Thanks to Doom and no remedy lures, or Asuna yet, I have to revive my team one after the other. It's a super close call, but I eventually struggle through it and win the fight. Then I head off to the Ester Sand to hunt down the illustrious Flowering Cactar. He dies in 2 magic casts each because he has another hunt meant for earlier in the game. I head back to Rabanastre to prepare for my next big challenge. I pick up the Cluckatrice and Rocktoys hunts and head for the Giza Plains. I save and clear out the area where the Cluckatrice hunt takes place of all enemies. I rezone and the Cluckatrice spawns. My normal strategy for this fight is to immobilize the babies and take them out one by one. I also decoyed Fran as her armor is good enough that she takes no damage from the babies and little to no damage from the Cluckatrice herself. It was at this point that I ran into one fatal problem. Petrify. I don't know why, but this was always something I never had to really deal with, and I came only prepared to deal with the amount of damage I was going to take, not status conditions. Try as I might, I can't prevent or remove Petrify at this stage of the game, and if Fran dies or becomes disabled by stone, I can't win with Balthier alone. He's just too weak right now. So I go out to level and farm LP, but Balthier keeps dying and it's getting annoying. Finally, I decide to see if I can get any gold needles or sell any loot to get them from the bazaar with absolutely no luck. I can't get the accessory which grants immunity to Petrify yet, and without gold needles I am doomed to fail. So I go ahead and use that trusty Google to see if there's any way for me to get gold needles at this point in the game, and as luck would have it, there is. I head out to the Wester Sand to steal some succulent fruits from the tomatoes. I only need 4, and it's a one-time bazaar recipe, but I managed to get 3 gold needles, which should be enough. I head back and clear out the area of enemies, and then I save the game. This time, I don't bother with any status ailments other than immobilize to deal with the babies. I have Balthier on dark duty with Fran spamming fire on the Cluckatrice as it's the only threat to me. Both my team members get petrified, but I use Gold Needle on Fran, and with Balthier out of MP, I just let him turn to stone. Fran healing periodically and using ethers whenever she's low on mana, and I eventually manage to whittle the Cluckatrice down enough to finally kill him. I revive Balthier to help me finish her, and her baby's off, and I head back to town to save the game. This is normally a tougher fight at this point in the game, but I wasn't expecting to get stumped by it like I did. I'd like to thank everybody for watching my first video. This is my first time doing any sort of challenge playthrough on any of my favorite games, but I thought I would record it and make a video. It might seem a little scripted because I've been writing a script as I go, and you can obviously tell that my audio recordings are also varied to some extent because I've been recording them as I go as well. This is definitely a different style to the type of videos I would normally make or would normally want to make, but I thought I'd give it a try because it makes it a little bit easier for me than having to go through an entire game and look over 60 hours of footage. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to change or add into the videos, and I'll see if I can do it. I'm not exactly the best at editing, and I'm also kind of lazy, so that's a problem. So far, I'm actually really enjoying this, though. FF12 is one of my favorite games that I've ever played. It's really enjoyable for me. And about the only drawback is the fact that I have to keep pausing every hour or so and write a script of what I've been doing, and then follow it up with some recording and editing. So hopefully as I go forward it'll get a little bit easier, maybe get into a rhythm, or maybe be able to include more of the game into less of a time spot, I guess you could say. I was thinking about making the whole game into one video, but this video would have been like 2.5 hours long or more, and yeah, that'd be too much for me. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any suggestions, let me know, and thank you. Have a wonderful day.